everyone, it's Priya here, and in today's video I'm going to be painting these tulips using only pastel colored acrylic paints. So I got this acrylic paint set which only has pastel colors in it. So I do normally use the Mont satin acrylics to do my acrylic paintings, but I wanted to use these since they're only pastel colors. I wanted to use them to create some paintings and just have fun with them because they have such a range of different colors for each color. Like there's a different range of blues, purples, yellows, oranges, peaches, pinks, greens. There's a range of different colors and I wanted to use them in a painting. So I decided to paint these tulips only using these paints. So I do work in my sketchbook with acrylics, and this is a watercolor sketchbook and it takes the paint really well. You don't have any warping, I don't have any paint or color seeping through or bleeding through onto the other side of the page. So it's perfect to use. This is the Hahnemuhle watercolor sketchbook that I'm using, and it's perfect to use the acrylic paints directly on it. I've got no primer on the paper, no gesso, it's just directly, I've done the graphite drawing of the composition for the piece of the tulips, and I've just went in straight with acrylics. So with the acrylics, you don't have to really worry about using any specific like a water soluble pencil, although I do usually use this water soluble pencil that just allows you not to have any graphite lines showing through. But in this case I wasn't too worried because with acrylic paints they are opaque and they do cover a lot of that pencil. You're not going to see those lines there. Now you will notice that some of those lines are still showing through after I've laid down my base layer. Now the reason for that is that I firstly didn't lighten the sketch after I drew it, but apart from that is I'm using the acrylics really watered down. And that's something that I found really different about these specific pastel shades and pastel paints, is I can water them down really a lot and I can make them almost transparent and to be used similar to watercolors with a lot of water. And I don't have the pigment breaking down or breaking down too much where I lose the color of the paint, or you have the paint separating from the water because too much water is applied. I'm not getting that with these paints. I'm able to add a lot of water. You will see later on I'll be doing a background and I'll be painting it similar to watercolors, although I am painting on paper and the paper does absorb some of the acrylic, but this paper holds up really well with the acrylics. It absorbs it but it doesn't go through onto the other side, which is a very good thing. And also the paint stays wet to a certain extent, but that also depends on the amount of water you use when you are applying your paints and mixing your paints. And I also, when I did the background, you'll see later, I watered it down and I used the paints almost like watercolors, although they do dry quickly and they permanent when they go down. So you're not going to be able to reactivate them like you would with wash or with watercolors. With those you can really reactivate them. But I'm also able to thin them down like how you would oils, but using water, and I'm able to layer similar to oil paints as well because they go down very smoothly and very buttery. So you get that smooth blending and you get that smooth application of paint. And depending on the amount of water I use, I can control the amount of basically transparency for these paints. So that's something I found very unique about these acrylic paints, because my usual acrylic paints, I don't really water them down that much. And this one I watered it down quite a bit. And like I said, you'll see later, I used it almost like watercolors, which was really fun to use because they have these elements of acrylics, watercolors, gouache, and oils even. So I was able to get smooth blending. I was able to get details and texture as well, depending on the amount of water as well as my brush application of the paint. So the brush I'm using is a Filbert. I really enjoy using Filberts with my acrylic paints, but I do use some other brushes, round brushes and detail brushes as well, even flat brushes to create the backgrounds. But in this case, I really wanted to have that smooth blending and smooth application, so I was using my Filbert for most of the video or most of this painting. But you will see later on when I'm doing some finer details, I do go in with a liner brush, which will get me some finer details for the petals and the texture of the petals. So I'm just layering different layers of color. I'm started off with an orange color, moving to peach, pinks, and then I'm really mixing that pink color with some white, and I'm using that to really lighten up that pink colors. Like I said, this has a range of different colors, the set, but you can mix the colors. It's very important, as I said, for artists to mix colors and learn to mix colors. But in this case, I just wanted to try out having the pastel shades already down and laid down for me and mixed already, and just having them ready made, so I can just use them as I need, and I did find a need for having them a bit lighter, so I went in with a bit of white mixed with the pink. I am going to come back later on and add more texture to the flowers. I'm just moving on to the background while that layer is drying. Now I am not using any hair dryer to dry or speed up the drying time. I'm letting it dry naturally. And you can see now I'm adding that base. Now I haven't wet the paper before applying the paint like you would with watercolors. I'm applying the paint directly with the brush to the paper, but I have mixed the paints with water when I'm applying it onto, or when I'm getting it onto my brush. So I'm just wetting my brush with quite a bit of water and putting it into the paint, mixing it about, adding water as needed, and then applying it to the paper and to the painting. So you can see I'm using a range of different peach colors, pinks and oranges, just to get a smooth blend and get colors in. You'll notice that once the paint goes onto the paper, it gets absorbed into the paper and it leaves these harsher edges, and that I do blend out with all the other layers, because acrylics are opaque and you can cover previous layers with the next layer, which can get smoother blends. So you can see I'm just softening out some of those hard edges, but I'm leaving the painterly look, and I'm leaving the strokes of the brush strokes being in different directions. I'm not really worried about having all of them in a specific direction or everything smoothly blended out. I wanted to keep that painterly look, that it looks like brush strokes, and it looks like different paints has been applied, different colors, and you can see some of those areas where they're overlapping, and I wanted to keep that for the background. So I'm just using a variety of different colors. It's important that when you do a painting to have a cohesive piece, that everything on the composition works well with the colors and everything goes together. So the background has the same colors that I'm using on the flowers themselves. So there's some peaches, pinks, and as oranges, as well as some green. Now it's important to remember that placing your colors in the correct place will make your image that you're painting, your subject of the painting, stand out. So by putting the flowers with a green background like I'm doing here, it helps to keep that background in the back and let the flowers come forward, because you're not using the same color. Had I used pink in the background, or a color similar to those of the tulip, a pink peach color, I would get the flowers getting lost with the background, and they won't really be showing through and really standing out. So it's important to remember when you are painting to try to keep the background colors, if you're doing a background, keep them in the using colors from the composition or from your piece, but keeping them in a different color around the area. So don't use the same colors that are on your subject matter. So where the leaves are, don't use the same green. Where the flower is, don't use the same pink and peaches, because you can lose the subject or your focal point into the background. So that's something just to remember as well. Also now I'm just going in with my liner brush with some white paint, and I'm just creating some texture for the flowers and creating that little outlines here and there to just highlight some of the petals and let them stand out, so you're not getting this complete merging of all the petals, and you don't really see the three-dimensionalness of the flowers. Because although this was not a hyper-realistic painting, and I didn't want it to look too realistic, I wanted it to look like a tulip and to have the details, but also be very illustrative and painterly, and I was very happy with the result I got, and I really enjoyed applying these paints. They go down so smoothly. But like I said, it's really fun to work with this. You can mix your own pastel colors. You don't have to have this set to create a painting like this, but it was just something I wanted to try out, and I'm really having a lot of fun painting with these paints because of their texture and the way they go down and the way they can be diluted with water. So now I'm just adding some white brush strokes to the background, once again to create that a bit of texture and a painterly look, and I just think it really lightens up the background and brings it together. I'm not really worried about being perfect. I just want to create that little bit of texture to the background behind the flowers. So I guess that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you found it helpful. If you have, don't forget to leave a comment down below. If you've liked this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. It really helps the channel. And if you would like to see more art videos like this and other videos that I put up on my channel, if you don't want to miss any of them, then you can consider subscribing. So till the next one, bye!